Good morning, everyone out west, and as well in central, and as well good afternoon to everyone out east. We are delighted that you can join the webinar session today, focused on forecasting the impact of new drugs on private drug plans. My name is Lucy Falcioni. I'm the new General Manager for the Adjudicare platform. Most of you I have connected, and others I will be in touch shortly within the next couple of months to formally meet and get to know you more as a key clientele to our organization. And I'm also the Business Leader General Manager for the Flexit 360 platform within TELUS Health. Pharmaceutical research and development continues to fill Canada's drug pipeline with innovative drugs that present new treatment opportunities. But what will be the impact on private drug plans on these new drugs? Following this session, you should have a good understanding of the different levers impacting drug plan costs, as well as how drug pipeline forecasting can help your clients and your organization plan for future drug plan costs. We hope you will find the next 45 minutes informative. A few housekeeping. First and foremost, everyone is currently on mute, so everyone has been muted at this present time. You will have better audio quality by connecting to the webinar via the telephone bridge number that was provided as you logged on to WebEx. I want to mention that the webinar will be recorded, and the recording will be made available next week. So that would be the week of September 30th. We will make sure that you have accessibility to the recording. We have also scheduled a question and answer period after the presentation to give you the opportunity to ask us any questions about the drug pipeline forecaster tool. Should you have any questions post that session, please feel free to redirect to TELUS for further input thereafter. If you have any questions during the presentation, please use the chat function, which is located on the right side of your screen. So without further ado, let's get started. I am pleased to announce, or to introduce Sean O'Brien, the Principal of Data Enablement at TELUS Health. Accountable and has the oversight of the reporting and analytics suite, including its maintenance, evolution, and the establishment of new value-add services, translating data into insights in action. So Sean, are you unmuted?
Yeah, I'm unmuted.
Okay, and if there is to all of that Adjudicare clients, if there is any particular questions, like we said, please feel free to ask so on the chat function. We will attempt to respond as much as we can as we go through the webinar. We have a team supporting and reviewing the questions as they are posted. And as well, one last point, Sylvia Richards, who is your current client relationship manager, will be available post the session as well if you want to reach out to her directly to send over any questions that you would like for further, I would say, review. Sean, you may go ahead and proceed.
Great. Thanks, Lucy. And thank you to all the attendees for joining the session today. Quite excited to talk about such a relevant topic. And given the interest and the response rate we got from this, obviously it's top of mind for you as well. So if we look at our objectives for today's session, we want to share one of several analytics tools that we're launching at TELUS Health. So through our data enablement tools, we will show an example of how we leverage real-world data to help uncover future risk in your business. Understanding and quantifying future cost drivers can help you future-proof your book of businesses. So with that, we also know that plan sponsors are asking for better management of high-cost drugs and want to evaluate the impact of plan design changes before adopting them. So that's pretty much what many of the tools that we developed actually do, including what we're going to show you today. So getting ahead of drug trend can ensure more effective and proactive management of your block. So better management of your block should translate into more cost-effective management of your business, so potentially saving you money, as you see here. Just remember, without data and analytics, you're just another person with an opinion. I mean, that sounds a little cheesy, but I do believe that. we try to get away from anecdotal evidence and things like that, but we want to look and see what the data is telling us and how you can apply and leverage some of the data assets that we have to help you manage your business a little bit better. So key challenges. For those on the call, I'm sure your clients are focused on the balance between containing costs and providing a valuable benefit program to employees, right? So there's, everyone struggles with cost containment under their plans. Do you start reducing the plan value, and what does that do to employee, retention and attraction of employees and things like that? Because the benefit program is a very big part of total compensation. So we know that plan sponsors are grappling with how do we contain costs and still be able to provide a benefit program. So also to remain competitive, you do need all the information you can to determine future drug costs at your fingertips, and that's what we're going to talk to you a little bit about today and how this would feed into your overall day-to-day and annual planning activity. So at TELUS Health, we leverage our expertise in technology to provide enhanced healthcare management tools for our customers. So we firmly believe that this can lead to better health outcomes for Canadians. TELUS Health helps you manage benefit plans, control costs, and evaluate cost impacts before they happen. So that would lead to better or more informed decision-making processes. We have a team of experts that use our historical data, our current insights, market assumptions, and we can customize those to meet your particular needs. So when tools like what we're going to show you today are accessed, we're helping optimize your internal resources as well by centralizing our drug research, by leveraging our vast claims data. Over half of the private market claims data goes through our systems we have access to. So we want to more precisely quantify the impact of a new drug on your book of business by utilizing our technology and our data assets. So you'll see 2 points here. The one being increased efficiencies in planning for the future by using an advanced model such as this. It can really help reduce the overhead required for internal teams who are potentially looking and monitoring at the drug pipeline. So essentially saving time and money by performing research and analysis through our third-party experts. The second point to highlight is the fact that knowing anticipated impact of new drugs coming to market can help prepare TPA, TPPs for rate setting and funding of high-cost claimant pooling if you're involved in that. Essentially, you will be better informed when setting rates and adjusting pooling charges based on your particular expected exposure to new high-cost drugs. So many of you will recall the hepatitis C situation that occurred about 3 years ago. So this is a very good example of where the industry wasn't really prepared for what was about to happen. So there were new treatment options. Essentially, in most cases are a cure, but I don't think what was anticipated that there were thousands and thousands of Canadians just waiting for these drugs to come to market. So really is the warehousing effect, people waiting for treatment to happen as soon as it was launched because patients were aware these drugs were coming. So if we have a model like we're about to walk through, your potential exposure would be highlighted far in advance of the drug coming to market. So what our model will do is look at drugs that are in the pipeline, so not something that's already been approved and launched in approved through Health Canada and launched into the market, but it'll be more about what's imminent to be launched into the market. It's going to get approval, within the next 12 months, but trying to get kind of a head start on what that looks like before a drug comes to the market, and then we're more or less blindsided. So exposure under a particular book of business will be based on actual claiming composition. So either under specific book of business, such as a Judicare client, or could be under our broader TELUS Health book of business as well. Now, how important are newer specialty drugs to monitor? So the new specialty drugs target small patient populations, yet represent a significant amount of the total spend under a program. So you can see in our book of business here, for 2018, specialty drugs accounted for 28.6 of total cost under a book of business. We do also know the drug pipeline is largely focused on higher cost specialty drug treatment. In a lot of cases, these are drugs that are going to treat what was previously untreated or undertreated diseases. So given that, we expect the proportion of specialty costs to rise. So 28.6 now, it's over 25% of our total spend on our entire book of business. So which is $4.8 billion in paid amount. We expect that to be and it is rising historically at a much higher rate than traditional drug costs. So many of the newer specialty drugs are to treat more chronic conditions as well. So we expect these costs to persist under your book of business. You can see at the top here we're showing 67% of drugs under our book of business are for chronic maintenance. So the point is there's more need than ever now to be monitoring these newer, more expensive types of drugs coming to the market. So to outline the process of constructing a model, we focus on monitoring and identifying high-impact drugs in the pipeline. Then we essentially forecast their impact in order to help our insurers and third-party payer clients to detect exposure risk in advance, so you can act. So our model assumptions are based on independent research, utilizing our epidemiology databases that we pull incidence and prevalence and market share expectation. We look at manufacturer data, could be the budget impact assessment that's been submitted, other research studies, either national, international, and then we also leverage our rather large TELUS Health pharmacist team, and we also have a health economist as well on our team. So our models are estimates. They're based on known and developed assumptions by our expert sources and are meant to be directional in nature. So what we're really trying to do is provide an additional level of precision into the forecasting process for new drugs. So I guess there's two things to think of. We're looking at, we're trying to get ahead of it by looking at drugs that are not yet on the market. And then we're also, instead of just applying prevalence statistics and a percentage of what this might mean to your book of business, we actually go back and we're looking at actual claiming data to see, well, what is the actual usage of drugs in the same class, and what do we expect to happen when the new drug gets introduced and people switch over the newer drug. So I'm going to go into the demonstration in a minute, but before we do that, I want to point out that there are typically three scenarios of how a new drug can be modeled within our program. So if there are existing treatments for a new drug coming to market, then we look at claim history of those comparator products to determine the number of claimants on existing therapy that would be a candidate to take the new drug. So this is a big part of the model is understanding under a book of business actually how many people are currently on maybe a less effective drug for the same condition that's coming to market, and then using that as a proxy to determine, well, how many of those do we expect to switch, and then what is the cost differential, and what does that mean to your book of business. So we then apply different adoption rate assumptions on the new product to forecast the future costs. The second scenario is if there isn't any existing treatment on the market, so or there was no real relevant treatment options before. So a new drug, Ocaliva for NASH, is a good example where there isn't any treatment costs right now, so we can't really leverage claim history in our prediction. But we do know from our research that there are certain demographic cohorts that are more susceptible, I guess, to the condition. So what we then do is look at the research that says, typically by the age and gender bands, this is what we would expect for prevalence rates for this condition. So then we take that and we look at not claims data, but we look at coverage data, covered lives under our book of business that we also have split by age and gender bands. So we're applying those assumptions across that to come closer to what we think would be expected under a book of business. So the third example is when a new drug comes to market that does not have current treatment options for the disease, but where we know the disease typically does have comorbidities, so the person with the disease will most likely be treated for another disease. So for these, we look at the prevalence rate of the other disease, so then we have an idea of the number of people that may be candidates for the new drug coming to market. So 3 different scenarios, and I'll walk you through the model. So this is a visual of the model, but as Lucy said, everyone will receive the slide deck. We'll send a link, and it's going to be posted. So I'm going to now move into the model and walk you through a demonstration. So here is the landing page of our, essentially it's a budget impact model. You have, depending on when we release the model, we add new drugs each quarter. But right here, we're looking at Aimovig. It tells you what the drug is for. There's other drugs you'll be able to select as well. There are different inputs. Anything green here is an input field. So the user themselves can play with the different inputs. We use our estimated or expected inputs, but it does allow you to customize it if you wish to. So what this does is we look at, because Aimovig is for chronic migraines, so not episodic, chronic. So there will be people that are being treated for episodic migraines that are on triptans, but here we're looking at other comparators that for people that suffer from more chronic migraines would be using. So drugs like beta blockers, muscle relaxants, amitriptyline, different drugs like that have typically been used in prophylaxis. These are the ones that we bring into the model. So what we see here is the percent of claimants using a drug for an indication. So because certain therapeutic categories can be used for other things, and in this case, beta blocking has always been a hypertension drug, and the majority of people that are on that drug are treating it for that. Because we don't have any claims data in Canada, we never get submitted what the indication is. So we have to make an assumption around, okay, of this class, how many would theoretically be taking it for chronic migraine suffering. So here you could change these if, like I said, 5% would be for beta blockers. You can change these. What we also show is current market share of these products and the number of claimants based on our indication assumptions that are on it. And year 1 and year 2, we can show how it changes. So what the model also does is there is expected market cannibalization. So if someone, for example, is taking a beta blocker for migraine and the new drug Aimovig comes out, we expect a shift to that new drug, and that'll be captured in our adoption rates, and I'll move to that in a second. But because that shift, we also expect a reduction in beta blocker usage for that 5% that could be using it for that. So what the model does is shows how much that class will be cannibalized, and also then looks at the cost and compares basically moving forward what would the new drug cost be, and what would and how does that reduce the cost under the previous therapies, because we're trying to net out the difference. So cannibalization, this will have to add up to 100%, but you can choose what percentage the new drug will cannibalize these different categories. So you can make the changes to them here. The other input is we have an annual cost per patient here. This is based on our research, and now Aimovig's on the market now, so we validate the cost. But for drugs before they come to market, the pricing isn't yet known. They would go through PMPRB, then you would set the pricing, but we have an idea of what the manufacturer is looking to submit it at. So we use that as our price. What you'll see here is we load the model with expected high and low adoption. So really this allows the user to scenario test. So we expected an adoption of 10% and then moving higher in year 2. It's a gradual adoption. And then given that, you can see the impact down here. What we're showing is the total cost year 1, year 2. Reference scenario means if the new drug was never introduced to the market, what would we expect the reference scenario to increase by or project that by? But with the new drug coming to market, giving there be people moving to the new drug, which would offset the cost of the other drugs, but everything is combined in here. The difference between the two is giving you a budget impact at this specific drug level. But if you thought it'd be, what if it's higher adoption than what our research suggests? You can make a change and you'll see it'll move through the different. It'll take a second because it's running all these other sheets in the background as well, and you'll see there's a different delta between the two. So for each drug, we also see we provide because laymen wouldn't know what's included under beta blockers or muscle relaxants. So what we provide is for each one of these, when you switch a drug, it'll refresh a different sheet, which will show you the different drugs that are included in that therapy category of the existing treatment options. The other, also what we provide is a bunch of different projections and a graphical view as well. So the top here we're showing, we feed into the model 3 years to establish trends if the new drug wasn't added. And then the bottom half here is forecasting the new drug and what that will do to market share under these other categories. And you'll notice here now we have the new drug in here, and we're showing what the uptake will be. You can then select different. This is essentially a slicer, but you can select different graphical views if you just want to look at 1 year. If you want to include both reference scenario and new drug, you'll be able to visually look at the impacts of the different drugs. So the other area that we've found to be useful is because you could have one drug that is, shows a difference of 3% projected increase over if the drug didn't get launched in that therapy class. But to provide more context, we show a cumulative impact of all the drugs, and this list will grow as we add new drugs each quarter. But we're doing a cumulative impact of entire book of business. So if for all the drugs in this model, which were these 5 drugs, and we assume the expected adoption rate and the assumptions we used in the first sheet, you will see that it's a cumulative impact of all these drugs of under this particular book of business 4.8 million, so almost 5 million. In year 10, that goes up quite a bit. Then we express it as a percentage of annual spend, just so it's easy to see what this means overall to your entire drug spend under your block and the number of claimants. But what this also allows you to do is do different scenario tests. So if you want to take low adoption, you'll notice these numbers changed. Maybe you think NASH is going to be a higher adoption than it was. So you'll see a lot of the changes happening here. And like really, if you set these all to high, you're going to see a much larger percentage of total spend that this the new introduced drugs, if they have higher adoption rates than we expect, what they would look like. So in essence, that's the model. You can you switch, and you'll see it's going to switch different. So now we have different comparator classes, different costs, again, different adoption percentages than before, but we still have a low, medium, high expected. and then you'll see that's changing here, just for reference, the different drugs that go into the comparators, and you'll see different charts as well. So it really is designed to show you cumulative, giving you a reference point of, what is the risk exposure under a particular book of business, and what is the magnitude of that, which is when you start looking at overall impact. When you start seeing these drugs, you can see the more you add in over the next 1 or 2 years, what that might mean to your book of business. So essentially that is the model. I just go back. This outlines when we are going to show, or we're going to post this online, what the different, what everything really means. So because we won't be posting the model, this will give you an idea, or you'll be able to recall what we walked through and how the model itself works. Again, I talked about high-level budget impact. Really what it's doing is looks at the reference scenario. So if that new drug didn't come into market, we still have to assume there is a trend happening under that drug class the same way there is under every entire book of business in every drug class. But then for comparison purposes, we introduce the new drug. We then look at how the uptake and the cost of that new drug will happen based on the assumptions on how many people we feel will move away from current therapy and into the new drug therapy. And then we compare the two to show what the net budget impact is. I walked through some of the charts here as well that allow you to go and filter and show different visuals as you go through each drug. And this is a little different chart here. If the drug doesn't have any existing therapies, we are showing, graphically what the composition across demographic, age, and gender bands is, so you can see how that flows into the model. And as I showed, really the cumulative impact is useful to show of all these new drugs coming soon, what could that mean to our entire book of business? And depending on if it's our TELUS book of business that's used, if it's your own particular claims data, it all gets expressed based on your claiming composition and what it means to your share of drug costs. So in closing, that was a relatively quick walkthrough, so I'm looking forward to some Q&A and getting into more detail. But before we get there, our model will be updated, as I said, quarterly. We issue a drug pipeline newsletter each quarter to our clients, and within that, it shows a lot more about what the new drugs are. It will show, kind of expected cost when we expect it to be launched. We then take that and we try to quantify it a little better with using our claims data. So that's the process. It comes out, it'll be coming out quarterly. We have preloaded assumptions, as I showed you, but again, it allows some variables to be selected if you want a scenario test or do some, what if calculations. So we can use our TELUS book of business claims and demographic data in the model, or we can use a TPA specific or a client specific data in the model. So eventually, when all Adjudicare client claims are processed through our TELUS drug engine and we have enough claims history, we'll be drawing from that the same way we're doing right now with our book of business. But alternatively, if we do have access to historical claims exports from prior PBMs, we can pull those into the model as well and use your book of business specific to have a look at this. So with that, I will open it up to questions. Is there any questions on the line or on the chat?
There is one question, and there's a few others that probably to help the participants bring some further clarity, Sean, in terms of the potential of this tool. First question is, can we use this solution for any drug?
I mean, it can be. We do the research on our end for the drugs, and we load the model with our assumptions. The way we triage the drugs in the pipeline are the ones that are of significant impact potential, i.e. cost or utilization, and are nearing getting closer to market launch. So as we go through each quarter, that's the view we take when we're looking at which drugs we're going to pull in. And then eventually each quarter we will be working through the entire pipeline.
Another question, is the offering already available for use should we decide to proceed?
It is. It's available with, so right now, the drugs that you see there, all the assumptions have been made, but it would need to be, right now it's available with using our book of business, claims, and demographic data. Should we look to use TPA's specific claims data or client-specific claims data, then we would need to import that data. And then, as I said, each quarter we release another version that adds on new drugs. So what we do is we will add additional drugs, and if there are new drugs that have already come to market, we will drop them off. So Aimovig is a good example. That's already on the market. It hasn't been reviewed and added to every carrier's formularies, managed formularies, but it's out there. So that's an example of one that, because there's actual claims data now, we drop those types of drugs off and just focus on the ones where they haven't come to market yet, and we're trying to anticipate what that would mean.
Thanks, Sean. Another question. Is there any plans to evolve the offering in the future? And if yes, what other features are under consideration and the potential timing?
Yes, we believe it's constantly going to evolve. This is really almost a pilot, or it really is a prototype. Where we really want to go is to move it to more of a web-based solution. It looks like Excel now. It's all visual basic programming in the back end, but we're looking to make it more of an application and potentially have it web-based. But right now, as far as the mechanics and the logic and methodology go, it will evolve as we add new drugs every quarter to it.
Another question, Sean. Under the reference scenario, this assumes the new drug does not come to market, but it does not show the effect of the cannibalization rate. Can you elaborate on that, Sean?
Sorry,
Under the reference scenario, it assumes the new drug does not come to market, but it does. The question is basically, what is the effect, I believe, on the cannibalization rate?
Of if on the reference scenario, if a new drug doesn't come to market, it does take into account. You'll see in the one screen we show the 3-year historical view. It does take into account utilization change over those 3 years before the drug's adopted. Part of that is cannibalization already within before a new drug is even brought to market. So it does take that into account. And then it looks at all the drugs in that class, and when the new drugs comes into market, and how the existing therapy would be cannibalized. I think that answered the question.
Looking at the questions, just a minute, Sean. Another question. Would training be provided by TELUS? And would TELUS support be available should we desire to go down that path in the future?
Yeah, definitely. so part of it, and I should add this, there's, for each of these drugs that we add to the model, when we release it, we also add a fact sheet that shows these are where our assumptions were derived. This is what the drug treats. We disclose as much research as we can while still maintaining its proprietariness. That's even a word. But yes, definitely, we are there to walk anyone through the model, and hoping, even if you're considering it or whatever, we can still have one-on-one conversations with you and walk you through the model further. But certainly, if you decide to proceed with it, it would be something that we would provide support.
Another question, it is related around cost, so I will respond to that. So any cost discussions related to this service, it is a fee for service. We are going to be reviewing, sharing this information through Sylvia Richards, who is your current client relationship manager. And again, the other question about who to contact should we be interested to pursue, I just provided the answer to that. Sylvia Richards is your direct contact. I'll be working closely with Sylvia and Sean should you have any further questions, or if you're further interested in getting a more detailed overview or demo of the solution in a more, I would say, detailed manner. It was a quick overview that Sean provided today, but if you are highly interested, we are open to providing a one-on-one as well.
Yeah, definitely. This was, I mean, you can only do so much with a demo and setting contacts within an hour, but just looking to see what the interest is, and certainly we'll set up, one-on-one discussions as needed.
Another question, can we bundle multiple products together? Is this something that TELUS can entertain as part of the overall offering?
Yes, absolutely, for sure. And we haven't really showcased a lot of our other products, either that we have currently in production or in development, but our plan will be to be hosting more of these webinars. But yes, absolutely, we would look at whatever could meet your needs. If there's other analytic tools that we have or we're developing that would benefit you in your management of your programs, then for sure we can have that discussion.
And on that point, Sean, I would add that we are, as the new lead of the Adjudicare platform, I am assessing our current reporting suite within the Adjudicare offering today. We are looking at different options to be able to serve your current needs and future needs as well, so that the offering is sustainable long term. So I wanted to drive awareness into that as well as we continue to assess where do we need to go with Adjudicare in order for the platform to serve you end to end as we move forward. Sean, as I mentioned initially, is the reporting, analytics, new services, data enablement lead within TELUS organization, and I am working closely with Sean in the advancement of various initiatives. You will be receiving a roadmap as well within the next couple of weeks to demonstrate where we're putting our energies and focus, and you'll see it on the reporting side as well, some ideas that we are pursuing to enhance your current experience. That's pretty much it in terms of questions, everyone. There is, unless there's any more, the chat remains open. I'll give it another minute, otherwise we will close this session for today. Okay. I would like to thank Sean O'Brien and team for your participation, and especially our clients who have participated in the webinar today. Thank you for those who have submitted questions. And again, if you have further comments or would like a one-on-one session on this opportunity, please reach out to Sylvia Richards, your client relationship manager.